This is Taking Stock. I'm John Ehrlichman sitting in for Pim Fox. The question, how much water did you use today? We can show you that across the country right now, there are some abnormally dry conditions. And for a chat about the water story in this country, Don Correll is the CEO of American Water Works. Don, we thank you for joining us. This is an incredible map. And I'm just curious to get your take on the future of water. Where is the water going to come from?
Well, I think you're hitting on one of the three major challenges that we see facing the water industry in the future. Certainly dealing with water shortages like you're pointing on your map here is one of the great challenges. I think infrastructure needs is another challenge, and also dealing with the makeup of our industry. But if we spend a moment just on the water shortages, you can certainly see that in places where the populations have been migrating for probably the last 20, 30, 40 years, there haven't been any real new water supply projects that have been built.
And we're talking about regions like California and the Southeast?
That's correct. We're talking about the Southeast, we're talking generally across the South, and certainly on the West Coast.
And the infrastructure, you referenced it, that's the business that you're associated with here. And in many cases around the country, we're in need of a little repair activity, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think the EPA has estimated in its most recent study that we've got some $350 billion that needs to be spent on water infrastructure just over the next 20 years. Wastewater is probably the same amount, maybe a little bit more. And when you add to that water supply projects that are going to be needed to deal with some of these drought conditions, we're looking at upwards to $1 trillion that could be spent.
So tell us a little bit about your stories, the 30-second explainer on how your business works.
Well, we are the largest investor-owned water service company based in the United States. We provide service to about 15 million people, about 5% of the population across the country. We operate in 32 states. We pump and clean and deliver about 1 billion gallons of water a day. Wow. So that is absolutely our business. We go from coast to coast, and we include many of those states where there are some water shortages.
Sometimes the utility space gets a bad rap. People think, oh, the utilities, it's a boring business. But this is certainly a very interesting business. And do you think that the utilities as a group get as much attention from investors as they deserve?
Well, I think certainly in the water sector they haven't. I think your opening comments were very appropriate. If you ask the average person how much they spent for water this month or this week or what their last bill was or how much they used, I tell you get blank stares from a lot of people. It's the most underappreciated and undervalued service of all of the utility services, and it's also the cheapest. And I think that, out of sight, out of mind, and I think that's what's contributed to some of the infrastructure issues as well.
And that steady flow of revenue for you puts you in a position where in a tough environment, you guys boosted your dividend, I believe, by a penny earlier in the summer. Is that something you'd like to continue to do?
Yeah, we've been in business for over 120 years. We were public for about 50. We went private. We just went public a year ago again. As we've been restoring our presence in the marketplace and we've been telling the investors our story, absolutely part of our story is to not only increase our earnings, but to increase our dividends over the time as well.
There are a number of other names in this space that are publicly traded: Aqua America, California Water Service, American States Water. Mostly the analyst comments that I've seen are optimistic on your space. Do you think that water utilities have an edge on other utilities right now when it comes to grabbing investor attention?
Well, I think, again, we have been underappreciated and under-recognized, and although you mentioned several of them, collectively we represent only 15% of the service provided to the customers across the country. 85% is in the municipal sector. So there's an awful lot of opportunity through consolidation and other means for us to really grow our businesses.
What would be the biggest thing for you to do to grow your business? What is the big priority for you right now?
Well, we have a threefold strategy. First, we're going to earn the appropriate rate of return on our existing businesses. We continue to invest in the infrastructure in our existing franchises and earn the appropriate rate of return by going to the regulators in all of our states and get the return on those investments. But we see the opportunity for consolidation as well. There are 52,000 separate water systems in the United States, 16,000 wastewater systems. I think by any reasonable measure, We don't need that many, and many of them are struggling, not having the size, the capacity, the financial expertise, or the technical capabilities to deal with it. And we see that as an enormous opportunity for us as well.
So you feel like you have the financial flexibility right now to go out and maybe do some shopping if the opportunity is there?
Well, it's either shopping to buy, which we do regularly, buying some smaller tuck-in acquisitions, dealing with smaller municipalities or privately owned systems, but also working in concert, public-private partnerships with many municipalities who maybe aren't ready to sell, or maybe it's not even appropriate for them to sell, but providing our services, operating their systems, maybe investing jointly with them in their capital needs. We see all of those as opportunities for growth for us.
Do you think utilities in general are going to be a busier place when it comes to M&A activity in the next year? A lot of people have been pointing to this capital environment now allowing for companies to go out and do deals.
Well, I think given the makeup of our business, it's tough to really talk about it in terms of the classic M&A context, because you think of other publicly traded companies and the like. I think when you focus on the 85% of the market for water that's in the municipal hands, 98% that wastewater that's in the public hands, and you think about the state of the economy and the financial problems that many of those municipalities and states are having these days, I think this is a time when many of them are stepping back and saying, maybe there's another alternative to continuing to do it the way we've always done it, and looking to work in partnership with companies like ours.
Well, it's a very interesting story, and your stock tells the story as well, because over the past 12 months, positive performance. We know what's happened to the S&P. Don, we appreciate your time this evening. The CEO of American Water Works, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, that's Don Correll joining us.